those in the north, we're back with another exciting episode of Northern Consultations. I'm your producer, Dave, and joining me for the first time on this show is my man, Daniel. Daniel, how are you doing today? And would you love to introduce our guest?
Not bad yourself. Yeah, I'd love to. Today we've got a member of my favorite faction, Corruption. We have Adam, the Coyote Collins, coming off his first win in his play-in match. And really, not really your first win, because you've played in a lot of other leagues and show a pretty impressive record, if I might say so.
Well, thank you for saying so, Daniel. But yeah, no, happy to be here.
We're very excited to have someone who had such a strong debut match in your debut in the Schmodown, obviously. But we'd like to start actually a little bit before your debut in the Schmodown to see how you got here. Obviously, fan of the game. What made you say, I want to get involved and I want to try my hand in other leagues and competitive movie trivia knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us get hooked on the Schmodown, because A, we love movies, and then B, a lot of us like to play along. Some of us more competitively than others. But, when I first started watching the Schmodown back in 2015, and then when they really started amping up in 2016, I just found myself really enjoying playing along and seeing how well I could hang with the other players. I watched it for years. And then, once they started doing the live events and, I could get out there in the real world and see the impact of this game on other people. It was fun to go back to New York events after that and see the same people and realize, that we share a really common passion that's very, very specific, even within the movie sphere. It just got to the point where I was like, I'd heard about, all the other leagues, and I was like, well, I want to get involved like so many people do. And it all started with Multiplex, just one simple message to Caleb Boatman. And he helped me set up my first match. And then once that happened, I just couldn't stop playing. And I couldn't stop saying yes to matches. and it was a lot to keep track of because all those leagues have varying rules. And, I give all the writers a lot of credit, but, I did a lot of writing in the fan leagues too. And we're all spinning our wheels trying to keep up with question writing. So sometimes, you might get a real doozy out of left field that might seem impossible to answer in those leagues, but that's what keeps you on your toes.
So going back even a little further than that, what got you into movies in the first place? And what are your favorite kinds of movies?
Yeah. So
not giving away your strategies too much.
Sure. Yeah, no. I've prepared myself for this. Don't worry. So when it comes to my love of film, it, like most of us, it started at a young age. And I grew up with a lot of older siblings, so I saw a lot of movies that maybe I shouldn't have seen until I was at least 10 to 12 years old. And so just a lot of exposure to really diverse movies all over the map. One movie that left a lasting impression on me, and this doesn't really give anything away, is the Beatles film Help. It's their second film, and it's a comedy that just really holds up as just a wonderful, absurd comedy. And that was one of those first movies that I went back to repeatedly, just because I liked replaying the jokes. That was my Monty Python and the Holy Grail, essentially, when I was a kid, because of all the bizarre British humor to it and all that kind of stuff. Plus, the music is terrific. So, it just built, as I grew up, and I grew up watching lots of movies. And if you fast forward a little bit, I ended up going to film school, back in my bachelor degree days. So I spent 4 years in film school, having the time of my life, spent some time out on the West Coast doing internships. And, you got to really commit to, living in a major film city if you really want to thrive in that industry. And I just was never in a position to really commit to living in LA or New York or anything like that. So I never ended up finding like a consistent career in the field, but my passion never went away. And the Schmodown found me at the right moment because it reinvigorated that passion and helped me start reconnecting with movies. Because every time I would miss a question, I would write down the movie, and regardless of if I thought I was going to like it, just because I wanted to not miss that question next time, just for my own satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I would end up discovering a lot of interesting movies that way. And then the competitors themselves, start following their podcasts and things like that, and you discover a lot of great content that way too.
Do you remember what that first match in the Schmodown that you watched that really got you hooked? I think a lot of fans have that moment. Was there one for you?
Yeah, trying to think of a specific match. Honestly, it was a series of matches, and it was really Clark Wolf's initial run.
Yes.
Yeah, so her run in, I want to say 2016. Where she was just on a tear, and I really was impressed with her gameplay walking into it, schooling a bunch of guys, which is always fun to watch. And I just found myself really rooting for her. And then I ended up, over time, kind of glomming onto other personalities. There were some competitors who were more of an acquired taste for me. I won't name names. But, over time, I came to respect their gameplay and their characters and all that kind of good stuff. But Clark was one from the get-go that I was really always rooting for. And, always wish for her sake that she had been able to get that one win over Dan Merle in her career. She got so close, once or twice. But yeah, her initial run definitely got me really dialed into the game and really interested in playing along.
Yeah, I felt the same about Clark's run. I came into the Schmodown during that season with from Screen Junkies, and Dan came over, but it was really Clark's run that solidified it. I was going to ask, like, what do you do outside of study movie trivia? Do you still work in any sort of media space?
I'm not. I've never had any strong desire to necessarily get into a regular on-screen routine. I've dabbled in podcasting in the past, and I'm always happy to be a guest on programs like this and podcasts in general. Like, I'm definitely on board with that. But spearheading my own has always been kind of it's never been a huge priority for me, just because my time's already limited. And I dedicate a lot of what free time I have, and then a lot of free time I don't have, to the Schmodown. Cause I have a job Monday through Friday, and it's a fun job. I can't get into all the details, just cause I try and keep my work life a little bit separate, but I can tell you that I work in the beer industry essentially. And I work with a lot of different breweries, on the East Coast, and it's a really great industry to work in. And, I've gotten to the point where I have a certain amount of flexibility in my life that I didn't have, when I was younger. And it's afforded me the opportunity to, pursue passions like the Schmodown and film in general again. And I'd love to pivot back into a career in film eventually, but, got a family to take care of, bills to pay, all that good stuff. So Schmodown is what keeps the passion alive.
Working in the beer industry, you're talking to Canadians here, so that's already a major plus. Best guest we've ever had on the podcast, obviously. You don't work in the beer industry. Come on. You talk about your going back to your multiplex days and working in the other not working in the other leagues, playing in the other leagues, about how you had a hard time saying no to matches. Is that from a competitive aspect that you had always had in in you, or is that something that you acquired later in life?
You know, growing up, I was always resistant to competition as far as like sports are concerned in terms of subjecting myself to it. You know, I played a little bit of little league soccer and stuff like that, and I just never pursued it as I got older. You know, I was more into the arts, music, you know, drama club, all that good stuff. And honestly, with when it comes to you know, just my general involvement with the arts, I wanted to really pursue like the things that genuinely interested me. So I ended up like finding a really cool like arts camp when I was like in high school. That was just a great escape for me every summer to go away and be with, you know, other kids who were into movies and theater and music and all that kind of stuff. And that was how I really like opened myself up to that passion. And but even within that context, there was a friendly sense of competition to, you know, either get certain roles or prove, you know, sometimes which one of us knew more about movies. And then coincidentally, Mark Edward Hoyk, member of our faction, I used to watch him on Beat the Geeks way back in the 2000s when he was on Comedy Central. And I will never forget getting really hooked on Beat the Geeks and playing along with not only Mark's questions for movies, but the music geek and the comic book geek and all the other geeks they would have on there. And it was a brilliant show. And that kind of was like a precursor to the Schmodown itself. And, you know, that kind of ignited that trivia passion. And then, you know, I would just play with friends growing up, you know, like certain, you know, versions of movie Trivial Pursuits, because there's so many different varieties. And then, you know, whenever I can, you know, good old fashioned bar trivia. But the problem with bar trivia is cheating's just out of control in most of them. And I've lost, I mean, and with COVID, you know, I'm not doing any of that now. But even before that, like I kind of lost my passion going to bar trivia because I always find cheaters. And it's just like, what's the point?
Your faction mate Laura was talking about bar trivia and about having to like actually tell people that their answers were correct, and the people running the trivia game aren't well versed enough in Star Wars to know what they're talking about.
Yep.
I can see that being an issue, especially if I tried to do that here. I'm an Anglophone in a very French land here.
Yeah, that's Laura for you. That doesn't surprise me at all. And as she should have corrected them.
Oh,
because,
she was absolutely right.
Yeah. No, I remember correcting a host of a trivia game once, and I was polite about it, but he's like, okay, well, you're right, but, you know, for the sake of the game, everyone else thought this was the answer, so we got to move on. I'm like, well, that's lame. So
yeah, like, everyone else is wrong. What?
So to go back to the competition thing, long story short, I don't actively compete in a lot of different fields, but when it comes to movie trivia, that's something I wanted to compete in, and that's what Multiplex and Full Metal and the other leagues afforded me the opportunity to do when I got started, and it was a great outlet. Still is in a lot of ways. I'm still involved with some of those leagues from like a hosting capacity and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And moving into your debut match, was the fact that like the Schmodown itself was in a new age, and you have played all of these other leagues, so you're kind of used to playing from home. Did that, you think, not really give you an edge over your competitor necessarily, but make it easier to move into a league with like all of these people who are celebrities to some of us as fans?
Yeah. You know, I mean, there's definitely an intimidation factor when you're coming into the Schmodown. And even going into my play-in match, even though Andres was like an unknown essentially like me, you know, he's you know, close with a lot of people who are very deeply involved with the Schmodown. And I had heard a lot of people vouching for him. So I was taking him very seriously. because I'd heard he has some good knowledge. So that was intimidating, and just generally just kind of like rubbing shoulders with some of these people, even in a digital space. You just want to be respectful and mindful of everything that came before you. But yeah, the digital aspect, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt, but I am like a lot of us rookies who are coming in this digital era. All of us are going to be clamoring for our studio matches to show people, yeah, we're good with the studio stuff too. Knowledge is knowledge. And honestly, there's always going to be excitement going into a match, and there's always going to be some level of intimidation going up against legacy competitors. But it's helped going to the live events and, just kind of breaking the ice with people within the Schmodown and seeing how relatable they are. And it's not that it makes them less intimidating. It's just you can go into this realizing, you're both human beings. And yeah, like they have a legacy, but you know your stuff. Go into this and just do your thing. Like just do your thing. And that's what I did in every fan league match because, a lot of people in the fan leagues, their reputations precede them. So, I feel like I'm constantly going up against these people who have like a much longer track record than me. I'm consistently the new guy everywhere I go. So yeah, I'm hoping to get some tenure in the Schmodown so that I can feel like I'm actually sticking around.
Well, talking about legacy, you are now a member of Daniel's favorite faction and the now longest running faction still living, Corruption. Why join Corruption in free agency? Were there other offers out there, or was Corruption always where you wanted to go?
Yeah, Corruption, to be fair, it was my first choice. And it's not any big secret at this point because I've mentioned it on other shows, and so is Shannon. But I had established, a pretty decent run in multiplex at that point, and Shannon had been on SEN. This was pre-COVID, so she was in studio, I remember, and she was saying that they had a vacancy. Someone had to leave the Schmodown. The name's escaping me of the player, but they had to leave. And so there was this vacancy. So I sent a really well thought out note that I proofread repeatedly, because I was like, I don't want to annoy Shannon with this note. But I sent a note with a link to one of my matches. And I said, look, I'm one of many players who competes in the fan leagues. But, here's, a bullet point version of what I think I can bring to this game. And if you ever think there's a room for me in a draft, please watch my matches and see if I might be worth your time. And, a few weeks went by, and then I ended up hearing back, and she couldn't have been nicer and said, thank you for letting me know. I'll definitely try and keep an eye on you. Nothing's happening in the foreseeable future, but thanks for being a fan. She was polite. She handled it like a pro, and I left it at that. I wasn't going to bug her. And then back in May, out of the blue, I heard from Christian Harloff, and I discovered after the fact that it was completely unrelated to my reach out to Shannon. She had not gone to him and said, "Hey, you should put this guy in the draft or the free agency." He had, as far as I'm aware, just kind of done his homework and talked to the guys, who have come from the other leagues into the Schmodown already, and just kind of asked them their opinion of me based on what they knew. And based on that, he decided to give me a chance at the free agency. And as soon as I was official, Shannon was the first one to reach out to me. And the reason I wanted to pick Corruption wasn't just because she had mentioned the vacancy. I could tell how committed she was to the game early on in the season. They suffered some early losses, but obviously she let Bonnie go, and that was a fun storyline. But like Claudia and Klee, I think still have a lot of good matches ahead of them, and she really stood by them and is definitely looking forward to getting him back in the game. But you know, I had seen Marisol play in the fan leagues as well, so I knew that she was going to be good. And then Mark Hoyk, as I mentioned, I've been a fan of for a really long time. And then Mike and Chance, it's just like best of both worlds in my opinion, because Mike is a true legacy player in every division, you know, except Star Wars essentially. And then Chance was the trailblazer from the other leagues into the Schmodown. And seeing what they've done in teams and just their combined knowledge and the fact that they can do singles and intergeekdom, I was like, I definitely would benefit from working with all of these people. Swag actually was the other faction to reach out to me. And I had a really good conversation with Winston, but my mind had pretty much already been made up at that point, and I was very transparent with him about it. And obviously, Swag has a lot to offer too. They got a credible bench of players, and we're neck and neck with them in the standings right now. And it's a fun rivalry that we have going. So it is interesting that, you know, I ended up getting approached by him, but he's really good at what he does too. And, you know, based on the way Christian's handling, you know, the way he's dictated these rules about keeping 3 players, I think we're going to have a really, really interesting draft next year.
Yes.
It's going to be as tough for Corruption as it is for a few of the other factions that keep being mentioned, because, I mean, it seemed like it was going to be the top 3 in Mike, Chance, and Laura, but after yours and Marisol's debuts, I think your manager has a couple decisions to make, really.
And we got a lot of season ahead of us yet, and you know, we'll see how things shake out. But yeah, you know, we're really proud of what we've already accomplished, and you know, we're a really tight knit faction as well. You know, we all help each other out. So, and I hit the ground running when I got drafted. I wanted to get immediately involved, so I just dug right in and started working with Laura, Mike, and Chance for the Intergeekdom and Star Wars tournaments. Because, as I said, I've been a question writer in the fan leagues, and so I brought a lot of that, you know, to what I was doing, because I just wanted to help them succeed. And it was a great way to get to know everybody and help each other out at the same time. So it was a blast.
And that's really become like a main part of the game, especially with the factions that are kind of leading at the moment, and ever since the Five Club, the fact of like getting together with your faction mates and really studying and quizzing each other. Was there anything that like surprised you in like meeting everybody and like really joining a faction and a stable like that?
You know, honestly, I just had to get used to talking to people I've been watching in the abstract for years. That was, you know, that took a little getting used to, but again, we're all people, and you know, you start developing a rapport. You know, the more you converse, and I don't know that I'm necessarily surprised by anything, but what I can tell you is the competitive edge that you see in especially Mike, Chance, and Laura, because they are more established in the Schmodown already. That doesn't go away when the cameras are off, and it's just it's fun to see how much pride they take in you know, answering questions and accuracy, and you know, the way we can challenge each other too on hyper specific aspects of answers. You know, it's just fun to get into the weeds with other movie nerds, and and you know that you're not going to be judged for you know, being like, well, actually, you know, in this particular Halloween sequel, you know, like things like that are one of the things that surprised me, and it's been nice, you know, especially in this crazy time, kind of reconnecting with people who share that passion. It's been a huge help.
Yeah, I used to say if it wasn't for the Schmodown, I would be the guy I know who knows the most about movies. And I don't know if I like the fact that now I'm like the 400th best person I know that knows movies. So I'm sure there was a little bit of that going into it. Now let's talk. You've been drafted. You're part of corruption. You're in there. You're writing you're helping training Mike and Chance and Laura. How you immediately know I'm going to be in the singles tournament, or was there a surprise when you found out? I'm one of the four.
Yeah. So there was when I got drafted, there was no guarantee about when my first match would be, whether we'd be waiting for studio or if it would be digital. And then when the Inner Geekdom and Star Wars tournaments were such a success, Christian wanted to do this massive singles tournament. And it was a chance for so many factions to showcase their rookies. And it was, Shannon had mentioned to me, because at that point she felt confident in my ability to play. She wanted to give me one of the play-in matches. I was on board with it, but I wanted to make sure that Marisol got one too, because she got drafted before me, and that had already been booked. So once I knew that she was getting a match for sure, then I was at peace with agreeing that I had one too. That was knowing that we were both getting our play-in matches. Then we started, pivoting towards singles and teams preparation, because we knew they were having their title match with the Founding Fathers coming up as well. So it was just a way for us all to help each other out. And of course, all four of us were in the singles tournament. And, I think Clee and Claudia, especially, and Mark Hoyk, definitely could have made a splash in the tournament. But there are just extenuating circumstances, and, it's all about making sure everyone gets at least one or two matches this year, just to kind of show what they can do. And, because Marisol and I hadn't had matches yet, Shannon was kind enough to give us the opportunity, and our faction all had our backs too. So everyone else was very supportive of it, which was a huge relief. That when I found out, it was a surprise in the sense that up until then, I wasn't confident that I was going to even get a match this year, because everything was so unpredictable. But once I knew that, then I was like, okay, let's get ready, because debut matches, you can't overstate their importance. They're a huge part of where you go next in your career. It's not that if you lose it, you're blacklisted. I mean, look at Brendan Meyer. But at the same time, if you can come out and win, and you can do it in a strong fashion, then sometimes I can help you set up some momentum. And that's what I was trying to do, because that's what I did in the other leagues, and really tried to ride that momentum from match to match, because you get really dialed into the process and you get dialed into the gameplay.
And you could really up your draft standings for next year by showing a good run in these tournaments. And if I guess I don't really want to ask what team you want to be drafted by, but
corruption.
Yes, obviously. That's
Are
the
you
right
asking
answer.
that question? The corruption guy from Schmoes of the North is asking, who do you want to be drafted by?
Well,
I was under the
again,
impression you thought corruption was going to be a 100-person team next year.
Well, again, I'm under the impression he's going to play good enough to be the third signing member, so he doesn't have to be drafted. But the question was more like, is there like a manager that you think is like very conducive to your play style, or is it just corruption for sure?
I don't think you could sell me on anyone other than Shannon Barney at this point. And I'm not just saying that because I know how committed she is. I know how effortless her commitment to the game is. I never feel penciled in. Her investment is organic, and it goes beyond Mike. She cares about all of us in the faction, and she has our backs. So, yeah, I would be if the fates were cruel and I ended up on another faction, it would be a little bit of a gut punch. But I would never. The rules are stacked against everybody, and the better I play, the tougher it is to, guarantee where I end up. So I don't know. It's just, I don't, if we're not able to pull it off, and maintain our roster the way we want, because someone else is trying to make moves, then we'll deal with it. But, Shannon's always going to be my number one choice at this point, because I have firsthand experience. Beyond that, in terms of just managers I respect, I'm definitely impressed with what Winston's been doing, because I feel like he's united a lot of disparate competitors from all different. They were all, none of them really, Paul was in the dungeon, but
see, I was trying to lead you into, do I want to be a good guy? You're on one of the bad guy factions, and Winston toes the line. I was just asking, do you want to be friends with Brendan Meyer?
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I have spent a lot of my professional life making sure that I'm making other people happy, and I'm being polite, and being considerate of everybody's feelings. And being on Corruption has been this outlet to, kind of embrace a little bit of that edge that I think we all have. Mm-hmm. And I think I can still maintain a core sense of character without getting too carried away with the mean streaks. But let me just say that, if I'm fortunate enough to play more matches, I'm going to continue to work on finding my voice in that regard. But when it comes to a face faction, if you will, I don't have any immediate desire to go join a happy-go-lucky faction just to say I'm a nice guy. It's nice that everyone wants to be nice, but at the end of the day, as nice as Bibbs and the kid are, they want to kill you when they play movie trivia. They want to destroy you. And they can be as nice as they want before and after the match, but they go in to eviscerate their opponents. And Corruption's just honest about that part of the game.
Like Canadians in a hockey game.
Brandon has a lot of that repressed, from the Canadian politeness, I guess. He lets it all out in the Schmodown, that's for sure. He's vicious.
All right, so you're giving all the right answers, and Shannon's not coming for you. Just at least not yet.
Stop trying to get this guy in trouble, Daniel. Come on, man.
I gotta try.
The man's played one match. Come on, give him a chance.
Yeah, no, it's not that hard to remain loyal when your faction actually has your back. And, I think there's been a lot of talk from other competitors this year about adjusting to the digital format and how it affects their gameplay. And, conferring with teammates is tricky, and talking with my manager is tricky, and I can't emotionally connect with blah, 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 blah. It's just answer the trivia questions, guys. Just play the game, and the rest will take care of itself. You're the ones getting inside your own heads about all this stuff. Just play the game. That's all there is to it. And, that's what we try and stay focused on when we go into matches.
This is a little embarrassing that you said that, because I was about to say, I feel so emotionally connected to both of you right now. And I now am hearing that it's hard to get that. And I'm like, oh no, I'm the only one feeling this.
I have no trouble navigating my emotions and lack thereof in a match. It depends on who I'm playing and how the match is going and all that stuff. But if you get into this game, you have to go in with some level of belief in your base knowledge. And you got to continuously just see how you measure up. And that's why I'm never going to forget my roots. That's why I stay up on most of what Multiplex and Full Metal and a lot of these other new leagues are doing, just because I know the bench of talent we have in those other leagues. And there's a lot of great players. And I want to make sure that I don't lose pace with them, because they're some of the best people I ever played.
Sorry, I actually lost what I was gonna say there. You got everything, Dave?
Yeah, that's all right. I really want to stop down for a second and talk about. You've only had the one match that's been released as of right now. You're playing game against Andres, and you're talking a lot about how the feeling outside of the game, and how you're connecting with your faction, how you're all going through each other, and then you find out you're in the tournament. How does it feel when you're sitting in the green room and you're about to actually go on and start playing that match after saying something that you've been watching for so long?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was some level of familiarity because it was happening through StreamYard, and having cut my teeth in the other leagues, that prepared me for that part. The difference is Christian and Mark are calling the match, and I've met them both. I've met Mark more times than Christian, and it's I'm always excited to be in their presence, but like the initial starstruck stuff has, I have that under control because I've met them a couple times. So if it had been the first time I'd met them, that may have been a factor in the game for sure. But it's still exciting to be in that situation where they're calling the match, and you just have all this inherent energy, and then of course once they put it online, the added production value, which is really nice. But yeah, it was surreal. And, what kills you is just waiting for the match to start, especially for that debut. It's just like, I have been preparing for this, and I really just want to start answering questions more than anything. I'm hungry for it. And so once it got started, it was just this blur of just answering question after question after question. And before I knew it, the match was over. And I just take everything one question at a time. I listen to it as closely as I can. The only thing I had to do was burn one repeat because I wasn't going to be able to finish writing Ghost Protocol if I didn't. So that was worth it. But other than that, the match definitely went smooth. And, I'm glad I knew the geek answers that he didn't. That just worked out for me.
Was there, after round one, because obviously you talk about going smoothly and taking it one question at a time, you get a perfect first round. Is there a sigh of relief that flows over you, or is it more just like a massive adrenaline rush where in your debut match you're doing this well?
Well, I didn't feel any sense of relief until I got the bonus point. I was like, okay, I made it this far. And then that question, it was a good question. I think it's the kind of question that if you were to poll 10 people, I think less than half would know the answer to that question, who directed For the Love of the Game. But it was a challenging enough question that I wanted to think about it for like a few seconds. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Raimi, but I'm not going to blurt it out. And that's why I took a second. So after I answered that, I was like, okay, cool. I got some momentum here. And Shannon and I agreed I wanted to spin first if I was ahead. So I just wanted to keep my foot on the gas, really.
And that's exactly what you did in that match, even so much as to really capitalize on having a strong round two, and then picking up a lot of, as you alluded to, steals in the Inner Geekdom League. I know Dan actually wanted to talk to you, or Dan, he's on this side, wanted to talk to you about if you had any interest in playing in any other divisions.
Yeah. I mean, you know, just to go back for a second, it was a fun twist of fate to get movie release dates because I knew based on what I saw in the free agency program I went back and watched it. Andre said, you know, through his own admission, the movie release dates is a strength of his. So when I ended up with that, I was like, okay, I just got to play this safe. I was almost positive Willow was 1988, but because I knew I was playing against Andres, I checked a multiple choice just to be safe. I'm not checking the multiple choice because I don't know roughly what year it is. I'm doing it to limit the amount of points. And the Nightcrawler miss was a little disappointing because that would have given me, you know, more or less a perfect game if I'd gotten it. But I was 50-50 on that. And then the other ones I knew inherently. So when I got to Inner Geekdom, you know, I was just holding my breath to see how deep his knowledge went because he seemed really confident when he stuck with it. And yeah, I just happen to know those. But without getting too detailed, I think that if you can compete in Inner Geekdom, you should, because it's obviously a very popular division. And I just got to get through this first year and see how well I can do. But next year, if there is room in the Inner Geekdom division, yeah, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring at some point. That'd be cool.
That sounds good. I have one really silly question.
Mhm.
Did you ever consider spelling coyote with the KO for corruption?
You know what? I saw a lot of people doing that after my match, which I appreciated. I like that. But I'm not ready to co-opt it yet. You know, I think I need to earn a little bit more street cred because if Chance isn't spelling Cobra with a K, then you know,
True.
I gotta respect tenure. So, you know, if Christian ends up deciding that he wants to brand me with a K, I wouldn't be offended. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Coyote moniker has been an adjustment because I had a different name in the fan leagues that I wasn't super attached to. It was kind of just a random thing I came up with. Mm-hmm. So it was fun to get like an official nickname from the Boss Man. And
I actually thought it was great. Yeah, I thought it was great. I've always thought coyotes are very nomadic, and so were you because you've been in all of these different leagues. I thought the whole branding kind of worked perfectly.
Well, I appreciate you know, understanding the reference there. Because yeah, that's kind of what the Nomad was all about. It was just a reference to not only diversifying where I played, but it's also a reflection of my real life, having lived on the East and West Coast and in the Midwest and all over the place. So the Coyote was kind of the evolution of that. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I'm glad that the response has been positive. I'm glad people aren't, you know, just telling me it's a silly name because I really wanted to make it my own. And as I go forward, I have some good ideas about how to do that even more.
Great.
I'm excited about your to see how the Coyote evolves. And as we talk about evolution, God, now I'm just thinking about evolution, the movie Evolution. Sorry.
Modern classic.
Head and Shoulders. Oh my gosh, that's how we do it. Anyway, that's oh my God, this is the most random thought I've ever had in one of these interviews. Anyway, do you have any goals on long-term legacy? Because obviously, your next challenge after your impressive debut match, getting a TKO, let's not forget about that, is you have to play former teams champ, former singles champ, John the Outlaw Roca. What would beating him mean to your legacy, and what do you want your legacy to be in the Schmodown?
Well, I really, you know, I appreciate your optimism, but I cannot quite think about the idea of legacy yet, being so new. That being said, I'd be lying if I said I'm not excited about this opportunity, because John Roca is one of the absolute best who's ever played the game. I don't really think I can say things about him that haven't been said. With all due respect to John, I think, he is a tremendous player, and I've watched his matches for years, and I've listened to his external content as well. He's a fun personality to follow in the movie space. So yeah, I mean, I can't get ahead of myself. I'm going into this match the way I go into any match, just making sure that I am as prepared as possible. And going into it, I'm just going to be doing everything I can to focus on myself and the questions. And anything he wants to throw my way, he's welcome to try. But I'm really just focused on me and, making sure I am listening to every aspect of every question. If I manage to upset him, that's obviously what I want to do. But I think everyone's already just assuming Roca's going to beat the rookie, and that is fine with me because I want to be as low key as I can going into this match. I am not out there, lighting bushes on fire and screaming, at the sky and trying to get tons of attention. I am really just trying to focus on my gameplay and working with my faction. And I'm happy to be on this show, but I'm not going on to shows as much as other competitors, to be honest with you, just because I'm more focused on the game right now. And all the extracurricular stuff is awesome. These shows are great. I love interacting with, fellow movie fans and sharing our mutual love, not just to movies, but the Schmodown. But I have to kind of limit my participation in those so I can stay focused on the game too. And John is a huge test, and I'm going to do everything I can, if not to beat him, to at least show that I can go the distance with him. And I'm really excited for the opportunity.
Well, I will definitely be cheering for you, because so far on your episode of Northern Consultations, you have not called me an idiot. John Roca did. So, I may have made some bold claims about the CFL, but
I didn't want to cut you off again, but when you were saying you don't want to come on shows and scream and yell, I was like, no, that's Roca's job. Anyway, we should move on to we've got those last couple of questions that we always ask people.
Sure.
The first one being, what's something that would be unknown to anyone watching this episode and would be an interesting thing to learn about Adam Collins?
Oh boy, it's hard to assume that there's a fact about me that's super interesting to other people. But let me dig for a second here.
Like a coyote. They dig? Yeah. I actually don't know. I'm not a zoologist.
Let me think. All right, here's one. When I was working in Los Angeles, doing my internships and stuff, I worked on a short film called This Monday that was directed by an actor named Tim DeKay, who was, I don't know if you ever remember the show White Collar with Matt Bomer on USA.
Yeah.
Tim DeKay was his co-star. He was the FBI agent.
Okay.
And I got to know Tim, and it was just this crazy twist of fate because I met him, and I went to Ithaca College in New York, and then I did the semester out in LA for a little while. And when I booked that short film as a production assistant, just by getting to know Tim, who's the nicest guy in the world, found out that he is from Ithaca and all this crazy stuff. And we really hit it off. And after that, I ended up looking up his stuff. I watched, he had these great shows on HBO back in the day, Carnival, which is excellent. It got canceled after 2 seasons, but it's awesome. And then Tell Me You Love Me, which was like a limited series drama, and he was on it, and Adam Scott was on it, and a lot of other good actors. And then the following summer, I was working my day job as an assistant manager at a Hollywood Video when they were still open. And Tim DeKay walked into my store, and it was just this crazy moment. And we were able to just reminisce and stuff, and it just made the world feel so small. But that was kind of one of those organic, full circle moments where I reached out to the film industry and had a really positive experience. And to this day, if I mention something to Tim on social media, he's very kind, and it was just one of those instances where it was nice to actually meet an actor and be pleasantly surprised. And then some other people were working on that film who I didn't anticipate. Ralph, I think his name's Ralph Gorman, Kevin Smith's buddy, was on there. An actor named Paul Ben Victor. If you look him up, you'll realize he was been in everything. And it was just cool to meet some of these actors I'd seen in movies and television all throughout my life. And admittedly, at the time, I didn't know their names. I was like, it's that guy. And so no one knew I worked on that film. So there you go.
Well, now the internet knows. So who doesn't know?
That's fine. It's fine. I'm proud of my limited involvement with that short film.
And our last question that we always ask, and we always get the most fantastic answers out of this. Say tomorrow, not tomorrow, we'll give it a couple days. All movies were going to be taken away forever. No new movies are getting made, and you can't watch any old movies. What 3 movies are you going to watch as like a final farewell to film?
So I think if I were to do that, I would kind of alternate with my 3 choices so that thematically I could hit the right emotional beats. So I would start off by watching Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man from 1995. It's a really cool black and white Western. Johnny Depp's in it. A whole bunch of actors are in it. Pop up like Billy Bob Thornton, Alfred Molina, all these people. Robert Mitchum. It's a great movie. And it's a movie that just stares right into mortality and doesn't look away. But it's also really deeply rooted in poetry. The film itself becomes increasingly trippy as you go along because it's about a man who takes a bullet and he's dying slowly throughout over the course of the film. And as he gets closer to, his life winding down, the camera work gets more and more complex. And it's all in black and white. And that would be me kind of like embracing my own mortality in a beautiful way. And then to recover from that and get a little bit of a boost, I would pivot to Alexander Payne's Sideways. I would watch Sideways. That movie I saw long before I ever was really into wine. I was young when I saw that movie, but it resonated with me even then because I found the characters so interesting. And that movie is definitely the reason why I've gotten into wine, beer, whiskey over the years. It all started with Sideways. And that movie, even though it has its ups and downs and, the characters make some questionable decisions, it's so full of life and it's so vibrant. And every time I watch it, I feel that movie when I'm watching it. Like it's so good at capturing sensory information on film. So that would kind of be like my reconnection, with what I enjoyed, during my life. And then to wrap it up, I would go with one of my all-time favorites, which might seem obvious to some, but that's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that would be the film I watched to prepare for the great beyond, essentially, because that movie covers everything. And people can, I know a lot of people think so many people, when they finally see it late in life, they're like, why is everyone obsessed with this? It's so slow, it's, confusing and all this stuff. And it's like, it's just about how you respond to it and the images and the pacing and the music and everything. And that the end of Space Odyssey, if that's what I saw, when my time comes, I'd be very grateful because it is quite a trip. And so, yeah, that's kind of like, like down, up, and then kind of down again, but, going in the right direction. So that would be my trifecta there, those 3 movies.
I love this question. I always really do, because we get some of the most I feel like you can really get to know a person based on the way they answer these questions. And I still, to this day, don't know that we've had a guest on this show repeat a movie that I don't think anyone else has said Sideways. I don't think anyone else has said 2001, even though they should have, because I just watched it for the first time a couple months ago. Just fantastic film. So thank you for that. That was probably the most, like, it was almost like a haiku, but I don't know what haiku is, so maybe.
It was a long haiku.
It was a very long haiku. Is that the one about the syllables? I don't remember.
Yeah. It wouldn't qualify on a technical level, but I let's say it captured the spirit of that structure.
Oh, there we go.
So thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. And where can people find you?
So I kind of deal with social media at arm's length, but I am observant of it. So, feel free to follow me on Twitter if you care to. Twitter and Letterboxd are what I do with movie stuff. So my username is, or my handle is Eisenthor, which is spelled AIZANTHOR at Eisenthor. And unlike other Schmodown competitors, I'm not afraid to get followers on Letterboxd, because just what I'm watching this week doesn't just because I'm watching something this week doesn't mean I don't know about other movies too. So follow me, interact with me on Letterboxd. I got nothing to hide there.
Sounds good. And Dave?
You can follow me on Twitter at LeaveMeAlone, but more importantly, and I think I'm about to steal this from Daniel, you can subscribe to Schmoes of the North on YouTube and join our Facebook group. It's a great community. It's a great follow, and you'll get more out of it than following me on Twitter, because I'm a terrible follow.
And I'm found at Avengers_SOTN, Schmoes of the North. That's AEH, the Canadian way. And thank you again for joining us. This has been Northern Consultations. Have a good night, everyone.